What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down why Tesla's getting hit in different directions with some good and bad news, and what's going on with all these different share prices. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, looking at Tesla's share price right now, you guys could quite clearly see there's been a downtrend in terms of the way it's moving. Tesla's been making lower highs and lower lows, continuing to get these rejections. Now, Tesla was trying to hold at 363, was trying to bounce on Friday as buyers came back at that level. It actually made about a 17-point bounce. It's about 380. We were talking about this. What happened was we got lots of news about how Donald Trump is going to be announcing new tariffs this week on many different countries. The whole market took a big hit as soon as that came out, and Tesla got dragged back down, losing 363, which is not the best of signs. So one thing that concerns me is the fact that when you go to like the daily charts, Tesla has a lot of gaps. There's a gap right here at 358. There's also this big gap to fill at 345. So could there be more downside? Looking at the daily, we do look a bit more bearish. We're looking a little weak on Tesla. So yes, there is a risk of that. But number one, I think that this is another potential buying opportunity for the long term. We know Tesla was almost at $500 just a couple of months ago. So you guys could see we're way below that. And there's a lot of opportunity to get it back into 300s. That's very good for the long term. Another opportunity, the dollar cost average, however you guys want. I'm just trying to put it out there. And then secondly, not all the news is bad for Tesla. We did have a slow start to this year because of their sales declining in China, in Europe, and also in the USA. However, there was some good news about that I wanted to just talk about, how Tesla could still be making a strong comeback despite this. So yes, for the short term, Tesla is looking a bit more bearish, and there's a risk of more downside once Donald Trump makes his tariff announcements. It could also affect SPY, the QQQ, and the others. But like I said before about Tesla, we are poised for a strong comeback towards the end of this quarter and as months progress because of lots of good news. So what is some good news that's actually coming out for Tesla? Well, I'm seeing lots of headlines out there that are saying that in China, Tesla has received 170,000 pre-orders so far for the Model Y refresh. Now, this isn't 100% confirmed from different sources I've been looking at, but there are suggestions that it's very strong for demand. One thing that is confirmed is that they did receive over 70,000 new orders in the first 5 days of the Model Y refresh. So far, there's people pre-ordering it. That was as of 2 weeks ago. So, if this reached 170,000, that would not be a surprise to me. It probably is somewhere in that range. I just don't have enough sources yet to confirm that, but that's still a good piece of news. So with all this talk that Tesla sales are weak, they're not doing well, I understand that in many parts of Europe, I know that the political climate is not very happy about Elon Musk's politics. I understand that, guys, and that is somewhat playing a role in why Tesla sales declined, but that does not necessarily mean that Tesla sales will just remain low forever, because that was just a temporary move, and with the Model Y refresh coming out, I think it could be a very big hit, and Tesla could still make a strong comeback despite politics and factors like this. I think that Tesla's going to look for a big surge in sales in China and even the USA very soon. Once the Model Y refresh starts to hit the streets, it's going to be crazy, and we're going to be looking for a strong comeback towards the end of this quarter. For the short term, yes, Tesla's looking a bit more bearish, but this is another opportunity. Just to be very frank about that. So what's also going on? I'm seeing a lot of headlines coming out about how Tesla's sales are weak, this and that. So that means that the news is not all positive. There's still a lot of negative news. There's also sources that are criticizing Elon Musk because of the fact that he has gotten super involved in politics. Especially, this is not the best in for the European atmosphere. But like I said before, hopefully Tesla could try to offset all of this with a bit of a change in their sales plan, their new models, and factors like that. So we'll see how it goes. When it comes to other pieces of news, just know that tomorrow is going to be Monday, February 10th, 2025. At 11 o'clock a.m., we have consumer inflationary expectations. At 11:30 a.m., we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions. So at 11 a.m. during that hour, expect a little bit more volatility once all this data starts to come out for the markets. In addition to all of this, we have something huge. We have Donald Trump, who's going to most likely be announcing some big things very soon. So just know this. Donald Trump believes that what he's doing is the best for the US, whether you like it or not. And the guy has been doing a lot of things in a short period of time. I say this because many sources are saying that given his pace of action, there's a strong possibility that on Monday, which is tomorrow, or on Tuesday, he's going to be announcing the new tariffs. It might be as soon as tomorrow. So when he makes this announcement, this may cause some temporary downside for the markets because of the implications that this will have for different businesses and to the US economy. I went over the details in my previous videos about how, for the short term, tariffs do cause a disruption. They're going to be disrupting trade, supply chains, prices, businesses, and the list goes on. But there is an argument that could be made that maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not worth it. Whatever you guys want to, believe, it's up to you. But I'm just here to tell you that there will be a short-term disruption with whatever he ends up announcing. So even if the market sees a little rebound, even if Tesla tries to rebound just a little bit, there could still be another rug pull coming once this guy, makes his announcements. And it depends on like to what extent, which country he's going to make the announcements for, and we just have to wait and see. So make sure you guys are ready. Do not be too bullish. Do not be too like what I'm personally doing is I'm not going heavy right now. I'm just waiting to see what this guy is going to say. So we'll see which countries are involved. One thing that's interesting is that the top three trading partners of the U.S., where almost half our trade comes from, is Mexico, Canada, and China. Right. Well, over the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump has been prioritizing these three countries, talking about China, Canada, and Mexico. The Chinese tariffs were imposed with some changes for some packages under the price of $800. They're just temporarily delayed. But besides that, the 10% tariffs have been imposed for the most part. For Mexico and Canada, they've been delayed by a month after some negotiations happened. So my point in saying this is now, Donald Trump has been prioritizing the biggest trade partners. Up next, we have Germany, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, the UK. Yes, when you look at the numbers, it shows 5%, 4%, 4%. But when you add everything up for the European Union and all these other Asian countries listed here, that's going to make another 30 to 40% of our trade from just those countries alone. So just Germany and Japan alone is almost 10%. Then when you throw in South Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam, that's almost 20% of our trade from just those countries. That's a big percentage of our GDP. Please remember that, guys. It's very important to remember. And then it's going to be huge. So we'll see what Donald Trump announces. Japan was asked if they're going to be throwing retaliatory tariffs back at the US if that ends up being the case. They have not responded yet. So we'll see what the news is telling us. Will these countries come back and retaliate? Will there be another trade war that's going on that continues? We'll have to see. So get ready. Donald Trump is going to make a big announcement at any given moment. Once he starts announcing his new tariffs, the market's going to make a massive move, most likely to the downside at first. So please be ready just to be safe. Okay. I want to give you guys a heads up about this very, very important stuff. For earnings, we have McDonald's and Monday.com on Monday. Everything else is a little minor. For Tuesday, we have Shopify, Coca-Cola, a few more, not to mention Supermicro and Upstart, DoorDash and Lyft. On Wednesday, we have CVS and Reddit. On Thursday, we have Datadog, John Deere, DraftKings, and Coinbase. And on Friday, we have Moderna. So keep all of these in mind. Last but not least, for the current sentiment of the market, we're currently at fear. There's a lot of fear building in this market right now, so we'll have to see if this shifts or not. Momentum is also at fear right now. There's a lot of fear that's been building up as well. This is not a surprise. This may even become more fearful as time goes on, depending on the tariffs. The put to call option ratio, it started going up as soon as people started to buy a lot more puts. So this was going up, and then the market started going up as well, which kind of hurts a lot of shorts. But now the market's coming back down, so we'll see how this is affected by this. The market may dip a little bit more, as suggested by this, and we're waiting to see what the VIX is going to do. So I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So what do I think is going to happen? Honestly, guys, Tesla's dumped really hard, really fast. But I'm still eyeing these gaps. I'm still looking at the fact that Tesla has that gap around 345 or very close to it. There's a gap right here at, well, I'm not too worried about the ones in the 320s yet. For now, we're just going to focus on like the 345 one just for now. That's the main one. There's also an imbalance all the way down here. So what I think is going to happen is this for Tesla. We're basically going to see an attempt to rebound tomorrow morning. Tesla loves to do that in the mornings, especially after so much downside. But the move might not last because of the fact that, once again, Donald Trump may be making a big announcement. So there's going to be a risk of us dipping closer to like 350 flat. So I think Going into tomorrow, we'll have to see if we could try to test 363 or so. Might be a small rebound in the morning, but then if Donald Trump makes his announcement, whether it's on early Monday or Tuesday, there might be a continuation lower towards 350 or below for a temporary move down. This is not going to be forever. This is just Tesla getting ready for the next push up. But for now, we are looking a bit more bearish. I have to be very, very frank about that since we lost 363. The 4 hour, for example, is looking weak on Tesla. So is the daily charts. And we have this bearish wedge breakdown. So like this, we're not looking the best for Tesla. So there might be some temporary down. So I want to give you guys a heads up about that. And then shortly after the tariff news comes out, after like a few days or a week, we will be making a big bounce. But keep in mind, the main thing right now is what Donald Trump says about the tariffs. That may cause Tesla to dip a little bit lower. So far, Tesla got a huge rejection. We went from 380 to 357 once the news came out. And obviously, that's just Trump saying that he's going to make the announcement. What's going to happen when he officially announces tariffs on like Japan or Germany or the EU or India? It's going to be huge. So make sure you guys are ready just to be safe. It may cause a move to the downside. Wall Street are dragging Tesla down so they can start buying it up for cheap. That's what their plan is. So just keep that in mind. How about SPY, ES, and the others? On the 4 hour, it's very simple what's going on. I'm going to actually show you guys something interesting on SPY/ES first, and I'll talk about SPY specifically. But look at this trend, guys, okay? We're doing something that we did beforehand, all right? We have these legs forming on SPY. So on SPY and ES, we had a similar trend where we were forming this channel. This is forming a flag, and then we got a break of structure here. We broke resistance, and we pushed the next leg up, right? The same thing is happening right here. We dipped here, rejected, dipped here, rejected, hitting resistance and rejecting again. So if we don't hold this support, we could continue to dip closer to where these lows are, but then we could still bounce. And then once we break structure, we'll be getting ready for a much bigger leg up during one of these times. Whether we get one more rejection phase again, or if we just break from here, this dump under Trump's tariff announcement is not necessarily a move to a crash, a stock market crash, or anything like that. It is simply just them dumping things so they can get ready for another pump, at least either a temporary pump back up, just like this, or we're about to break structure and start pushing higher. That's what's about to happen, guys. So please keep that in mind. That's what my view is for now. We're still technically in a channel on ES. Why do I say that? Here's my proof of what I'm saying. Well, we had this rejection here. Why did SPY, actually, let's go back a little bit. Why did SPY dump this hard? Why did we dump all the way down to the 5800s? Why did ES dump like this, right? ES dumped so hard because they were getting ready for a very, very big pump. Why did that pump happen? Because they were getting ready for a rejection right here, and they were just taking it back and forth. They pumped it up to reject it. They pumped it again to reject it, and then they're going to reject this, maybe dip it lower so they could buy it back up again. So that's the kind of market we're in. It's very volatile, back and forth price action. Keep that in mind. We're not in a stock market crash. We're not in a mega pump yet. We're just going back and forth. There could be another leg higher coming soon if we break structure, since we're forming a nice like flag right now. So that's a possibility. But that's what my view is for SPY and the others. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's not worry about the move up, up yet. What's happening is SPY may rebound for the 602 to 603 area. Then we could be looking for a rejection once Trump announces the new tariffs. We could be revisiting 595 or below. I would like to see this before it tries to bounce right back up. A move like this is very possible. If 590 fails us, we do have a gap to fill at 584 as well, and then we could try to bounce from there. But we'll see. But anyways, I do anticipate we might be retesting the 602 to 603 area. That may be dipping back down towards 595 or so. So there could be a little bit of a dip coming before we see some buyer's defense. So keep that in mind. On the QQQ, the same thing is going on right here. So we have this resistance where we rejected. We got bought back up at support, rejected and bought back up. And we're continuing to develop like this. So we may push here, then start dipping lower towards the 517 area. We'll see if that holds. If not, we could be dipping a little bit lower once Trump makes the tariff announcements. But then this dip down will just be another buying opportunity for a much larger bounce right back up. So keep that in mind. We might rebound for 525. Then if we don't hold above that, we could reject and start dipping for 517 again once Trump makes the big announcements. For others out there, we have the Russell 2000. I'm seeing something very, very similar developing. I think that we have a gap to fill at 220 all the way down here. Just to double check it, it's right over here. There's a gap that's unfilled. We might be coming back down to that 219, 220 area to fill that gap if we do get a big rejection. Even if that's the case, there's still technically an inverse head and shoulders. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do something like this, where we push and start dipping lower, back down to the low 220s. Maybe we fill that gap and then we see a big bounce right back up. And this is forming like our left shoulder, our head, and our right shoulder for a bigger bounce. That's another possibility. On ES, I brought this up again. Kind of weak on the daily, might rebound a bit before it starts dipping lower. Once Trump makes his important announcements, look for a little bit of a dip, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. I do anticipate a bit more downside temporarily. For NQ, same thing. We're continuing to reject. So NQ has a weak daily structure, and then when you look at the 4-hour time frame, we're barely holding 21,550. So if we lose that, I'm looking for a bigger dip back down towards these lower levels. Might hit support, rebound off this, and start dipping lower towards these supports over here, towards 21,350, or even below that. I would like to see it dip lower so that they could just give us a nice V-shaped recovery move, which is going to come very soon. But that's what I'm seeing for now, guys. Another rejection that could be coming. For Bitcoin, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We have this imbalance down here. So this is kind of like changing now. So this is forming like a resistance. I'm going to redraw this actually in real time. So let's actually delete that. And we have this support right here. So we're going to be watching to see if we could hold this. This is forming like a bearish wedge. So I think that we're just going to be really tight on Bitcoin. If we lose support, this could start dipping a little bit lower once the tariffs are announced for a temporary move down, just a very temporary move. It's not going to be forever, especially as we have these supports down here. So I think we might just consolidate like this and eventually start dipping back down towards 92,000. So keep that in mind. If we do break structure, we are looking a little bit more bearish on Bitcoin. Nvda is bullish. It's very bullish. However, there could be a dip depending on if Trump announces Taiwanese tariffs, especially. So if that's the case, we're going to be looking for support at 125 to 127. We need to hold this, and we will eventually bounce up to 132. But I don't know if and then from 132, we will bounce to it's like the 140s. But I don't know if we're going to be looking for a bigger dip, depending on Trump's tariffs, the extent of them, and factors like that. This either like dips a couple of points or we get a bigger dip like this, back down to like 117. I would like this because this could be forming an inverse head and shoulders, and then we could be looking for a big bounce afterwards. That's a very, very strong possibility. As long as you don't lose this low here, the inverse head and shoulders theory is very, very possible. So keep that in mind for Nvidia. It's just waiting on Trump's tariffs. They're going to be very important as we're very dependent on our trade partners, especially in Taiwan. For Tesla, same thing. This is looking a little bearish. We could be dipping a little bit lower. Small rebound to like 360 to 362, then a rejection back down towards 350 could be coming. But then once we hit our support, we'll see if Tesla gets a bounce or not. So watch for that. I went over Tesla already, so I'm going to kind of skip from there. For Apple, we look a bit more bearish. We're going to be looking for a test of 226 very soon to see if that holds. Very tricky structure, guys. Apple's been all over the place, but we lost structure right here, so might retest our imbalance at 228, and then if that doesn't hold, we're looking for 226 or below, and then we'll see if we bounce or not, so keep that in mind. For Netflix, we're kind of turning on the 4-hour time frame. We're looking for support at 1,000. We'll have to see if that holds or not, especially as we have these wicks forming. So we could be dipping towards 1,000. We'll see if we get a bounce or not. So just keep this in mind as it's going to be very, very important. I do see a small dip to Netflix towards 1,000, so just be very wary of that. Microsoft's on a bit of a downtrend, making lower highs right here. I could redraw this, so I'm going to delete this line for now just to make this easier to comprehend. I see a problem. Sorry, this isn't Microsoft. This is MSTR. Now we can draw out a trend line like this. This is looking like our next resistance. And we want to see it break structure to really break out. If it can't do that, we have to be very patient. So watch this support right here at this this range right here around 323. If we lose that, we could be dipping closer to about the 320 flat area or below, depending on the tariffs. If we break past 340, we're looking for a breakout right back up for a full recovery. It could go either way. There's a possible inverse head and shoulders, but this depends on some announcements. With Trump's tariffs, I still think this could be a little negative, so it might dip a little lower first, continue to downtrend for some time before we get the breakouts. Just keep that in mind. Let me go over a few more. I'm going to be a little bit quick with the rest of these. Celsius is trying to break out of this wedge. Whether we get the break or not depends on a lot of different factors. We're doing a good job so far, but The issue is that this might retest structure before it tries to break like this. There could be another dip coming because of the tariff news, so we'll see about that before it officially breaks out. So I want to wait on that to see if this is officially going to get that bigger move. It does look bullish technically, but there might be a dip coming first before it starts to break out higher later on. So keep that in mind, right? We might make a move like this tomorrow morning, and we could be looking for one more dip move. As long as we hold support and we continue to hold above this wedge, then we could continue to break out like this. We'll have to see if that ends up being the case. For super micro, we look a bit bullish, might dip a little bit, might retest the 35s before it tries to bounce like this. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. So watch and see if that ends up happening. So be very, very patient. But keep that in mind. For others out there, we have Palantir. Palantir is looking a little bit weaker. I'm going to be eyeing this previous resistance becoming support around the 105 area. Might dip to 100 to 105. And as long as we don't lose 100, I think that this could try to bounce again and continue to uptrend. If we lose this 20 EMA to 100, that range, then yes, we could be dipping to 92. Might be a temporary dip and a bounce, so we'll see about that. For Rivian, we're in a range right here. We could be dipping closer to about this 12.2 area, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So keep that in mind. That's going to be very important. For SoFi, there's a falling wedge right here. We're making lower highs. This could be dipping a little bit more before we finally get a break soon. It may take about a week though. But as long as we, if we could get a break out of this, that would be a good sign for SoFi to try to reverse. We'll have to see about that. For now, I'm just looking at this wedge, and we'll see if we get a break. We're waiting for that. It's going to take some time, of course, with the tariff news. AMD is going to make a big move depending on Trump's tariffs. Might dip lower to the low 100s, if not 100 flat. So we'll see just to be safe. ARM, it might be dipping to about 158. It could still be forming like a cup and handle, but there might be a dip back down to 158 to 155 for a temporary dip before it tries to bounce. On coin, we have a double top here. We'll have to see if we try to get a bounce. It's on a bit of a downtrend, so it might retest 278-ish, like around that area before it rejects again. So we'll see how that ends up going. For Amazon, we have like a bearish divergence here. I think that there's going to be a risk of this dipping a little bit lower. It may rebound like this first, a little bit in the low 2.3s before it starts dipping towards our 200 EMA. So we'll see about that. For Meta, we might be dipping towards 704. So we'll have to see if we get a bounce off that or not, but it might dip a little bit. For Microsoft, we rejected here. We'll have to see what happens at 408 to 405, and we'll see if some buyers defend. But there might be a little bit of a pullback here, so please be very careful about that. For Google is rejecting right here. We could be looking for a move back down to 183, so we'll see if we bounce. But I do think we might be revisiting this previous resistance becoming support at 183. There's going to be a risk of that looking at this, especially with these new tariffs. So a little rebound towards 188 is very possible. You might grab liquidity right here before it starts dipping. But I'm looking for a move like that. On GameStop, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now. We could be dumping closer to about the 24 area. AMC might retest 3.13, maybe a little bit above that, but it's not really doing much. DJT is looking a bit more bearish, might be dipping towards 30 flats, so be careful with this rejection, especially with the tariff news. The VIX is trying to break out right here. If we break past 16.7, we're looking for a bigger push for the 17s, essentially. I think it's going to do something like this where it dips a bit as the market rebounds a little bit tomorrow morning. And then with Trump's tariffs, there might be one more spike coming. But notice this on the VIX. Every time we hit the 20 area or low 20s, it doesn't just rally like this. It just pushes a little bit very, very fast. And then the market's going to form a bottom. The market's going to bounce, and this is going to come right back down, right? That's what the VIX has been doing for the last couple of months. Since the year started, that's all it's been doing. It pushes quickly, dumps back down. Pushes quickly, dumps back down. Pushes quickly, dumps back down. Because when you look at the market does the opposite, right? We basically dump quickly, pump right back up. Dump quickly, pump back up. We're going to dump quickly, then pump right back up. That is the trend for the market right now. And that's likely what the VIX is going to do. So just keep that in mind. Trump's tariffs may cause another move to the downside. The 10-year Treasury yield, and the dollar are both going to make moves likely to the upside if that ends up being the case. So we'll see about that. With that being said, guys, in conclusion, although Tesla has some good news, I do think the tariff news is not the best for Tesla, and there could be a temporary move lower, but it is not the end of the world. Tesla will make a big bounce later on as we get better sales and factors like that, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, that's it for my video. I thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys for your attention. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, and I'll be back tomorrow before market open. Thank you for listening. Peace out.